All right, ready or not, it is Matt Zollers time for the Missouri Tigers. Let's talk about why that might be a good thing coming up right now on this live edition of Locked On Mizzou.
You are Locked On Mizzou, your daily podcast on the Missouri Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hail, you true sons and daughters. I'm John Miller, your Mizzou mafioso and the central scrutinizer of Missouri Tigers football and basketball. Obviously, talking to you about, well, a brutal loss for Missouri yesterday, without a doubt. We're going to get to all of it, including, well, honestly, why Marquis Johnson, I love him as a player, but my goodness, it's time to be a better teammate, bud. I hate to say it. Also, why Missouri absolutely should have spiked the ball on that final drive while Matt Zollers and company were trying the comeback. Also, Eli Drinkwitz talking openly about how Missouri was on the wrong end of the flags. But you know what? Before we start the episode, this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. And obviously, Missouri had to make an unexpected move to Matt Zollers at quarterback yesterday in the second half. Just a terrible injury there for Bo Prabula. Evidently, according to Eli after the game, an ankle dislocation for Prabula. No actual broken bones there. So it sounds like he'll be out for at least the regular season here. It seemed like there was at least an opening there for bowl season, college football playoff potentially, the postseason there for Missouri because of the nature of that injury. But pretty crazy that Missouri has now lost, well, Bo Prabula and Sam Horn essentially for the entire season here. So obviously the ball is going to be in Matt Zollers' hands here for at least the end of the rest of the regular season. But you know what? That may actually be a good thing. You look at what Zollers did in the second half. Boy, he was pretty impressive, wasn't he? And that's not meant to throw any shade at Bo Prabula, but quite honestly, before he got injured, Bo was panicking against pressure. And the second time he spun around in the opposite direction to get away from pressure, like he was Johnny Manziel or Patrick Mahomes or something. I'm sorry, the spin-a-rooney, as I like to call it, for all you Booker T fans out there, spinning against the grain, against the natural motion of a right-handed player going left, you've got to have an unbelievably strong Patrick Mahomes-like arm to be able to pull that move off. And too often, Missouri just had no answer. For example, on a 3rd and 12, Vanderbilt was completely comfortable bringing a zero blitz, having no safety help back there on a 3rd and 12. Hell, we're fine. We're not worried about giving a 70-yard touchdown over the top because, to be brutally honest, Prabula's had a really tough time dealing with the blitz this season, especially the last few games since Alabama. That's just been a real problem for him. So even if Prabula's ankle injury weren't as serious as it is, even if he were possibly in line to start in a couple weeks here against Texas A&M after the bye, I would say Matt Zollers has earned the right to start anyway. So as bad as I feel for Bo Prabula, this is not necessarily the worst thing in the world. The worst thing in the world is now Missouri basically doesn't have a backup quarterback. I mean, we are so thin at quarterback now. You've actually got to call plays to protect the true freshman here, Matt Zollers. Obviously, you want to win here. Technically, you're still alive for everything if you're Missouri, but obviously there's no margin for error, and yet there's no margin for error in terms of injury at that position anymore either. By the way, I have to admit, after that play happened, I kind of winced, by the way, watching that instant replay back for Prabula, but just for information purposes, being a Missouri podcaster, I felt like I had to watch it. And when I did, I didn't love what I saw from Vanderbilt. It felt like the Vanderbilt defender was grabbing onto that ankle and really just kind of twisting around at the bottom of the pile. And, I'll be honest, I let a really emotional tweet fly yesterday, which is something I don't usually do. I said, I basically was like, hey, real classy there, Vandy. Keep pulling on that leg while it's already popped out of socket. Awesome job there, guys. I kind of thought that was maybe a bit of an emotional tweet there, but a lot of people ended up agreeing with me. A lot of people that I respect out there in social media. So maybe I was actually on to something there. You tell me. But I'll tell you this, Matt Zollers looked pretty good. I'll tell you that. That's the one encouraging thing about this game. I was always a Matt Zollers fan just as a high school prospect, but imagining him coming in on the road in a college game day atmosphere, second half, I mean, all of this stuff, obviously he didn't get starters reps this week. Not exactly an ideal circumstance on any level, and yet here he is coming in and balling out. I was duly impressed with Matt Zollers. And by the way, just psychologically too, watching Bo Prabula suffer that injury, him and Prabula are pretty close. Both Pennsylvania guys, they've worked out together before Zollers was even a Missouri commitment. By the way, Zollers suffered a similar injury about a year ago in high school, too. So all of that together, I mean, how could you not be impressed with how Zollers played yesterday? Obviously, it wasn't quite enough to get Missouri the victory, but, man, and by quite enough, I mean literally a half a yard short. I honestly I would have been okay if that pass would have been ruled incomplete, the final Hail Mary there. The fact that it was ruled complete and Missouri still lost the game was just short of the goal line. I mean, I did the full dramatic fall on my back after the Nate Pete fumble against Auburn in 2022. That's the last time I've pulled that move. That's how dramatic that felt at the end of the game there. But I'll say this, one thing about play calling too. I know a lot of people, including myself, were not loving the play calling from Kirby Moore at times in the first half. For example, there was a 3rd down and 3 play there. Missouri, I think, was about at midfield, maybe even at Vanderbilt territory, but a wide sweep there to Josh Manning that ends up losing yards. I have to say, I initially thought, my God, what is that play call? But to be fair to Kirby Moore, you go back and you see that immediate replay. I got to assume Bo Prabula has the option to keep the ball there. And, well, if you look at the keep on the replay, I mean, there's a 2-3 yard gap there and pulling guards, the whole thing. I mean, I think if Prabula keeps the ball, I assume that was an option there on that play. I could be wrong. If he keeps it, that's an easy 1st down. And by the way, the point here is once Zollers got into the game, all of a sudden the play calling looked a lot better, didn't it? I mean, it was the same offensive coordinator, the same team, the same everything. The point here is that, sure, we can nitpick the play calling sometimes, and maybe we should. Boy, the old Jims and Joes line seems to definitely apply here, though, by the way. And, hey, thanks to all of you, by the way, for joining me here live on a Saturday morning. Going to get to some of your live comments here as the show goes along. But speaking of comments, well, Eli Drinkwitz had some pretty pointed remarks about the officiating after the game, and I have to say I had to agree with him. He said we were on the wrong end of the flags, end quote. That could be a fine coming for Eli Drinkwitz. Probably worth it to him. I got to say, he's got a lot of points. So let's maybe break down some of the most questionable calls in this football game coming up here in a minute. First, though, I do want to tell you about our title sponsor today, which is Mazda. And Mazda's moving the game forward, by the way. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. Well, they move crowds, they move culture, and they keep moving the game forward. And this week's moment that moved the game forward, well, let's just say Matt Zollers. How about that? A guy, again, who comes in, your starting quarterback is in an air cast. What a terrible thing to see. You're thinking, man, our season might be lost here. Obviously, Missouri ends up losing the game, but they were right there. They could have been there, and you've at least got some hope here to finish out the season if you're a Missouri fan. So When you follow what moves you, by the way, the unexpected is only the beginning, and just like there's more to every highlight, well, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. It is Mazda Move and Be Moved. All right, so let's talk about the officiating here. And generally, I'm not a big cry about the officiating guy. I think all of you everydayers are aware of this. But sometimes the officiating can just be so egregious that it would honestly be it would be malpractice on my part as a Missouri opinion-based podcast to not bring it up. And I have to agree with Eli Drinkwitz, especially in the fourth quarter. Woof. There were some tough calls that went against Missouri. And by the way, it's not just about Missouri. In the SEC in general this season, we as fans have seen some absolutely horrendous officiating all year throughout the league. Just ask Zach Blackerby and Auburn fans how bad the officiating has been at times in the SEC. Heck, Missouri has even benefited from awful officiating at times. For example, when the refs didn't know the rules in the Missouri-Kansas game, and that crew got suspended for allowing Missouri a free kick for some reason on a kickoff. But there's no doubt that Missouri got the rough end of it on Saturday. First of all, when's the last time you saw a tripping call in a football game, much less two of them? Listen, they happen occasionally, but two in the same game. The first one, I saw the point. I saw the Missouri lineman. I can't remember if it was Gadis or if it was Tollison, but regardless, a Missouri lineman definitely kind of fell down and put his leg in the air. I see your point. I'm not even sure that the guy made contact with his leg. It certainly wasn't a trip. The defensive lineman there for Vanderbilt certainly did not trip. So my point here is that was suspect at best. I mean, for example, if I try to grab a guy from behind, if I try to horse collar tackle somebody, but I completely whiff and fall on my face, do I get a horse collar personal foul for that? Of course not. So shouldn't tripping be the same thing there? Well, the second tripping call, I believe, was in the fourth quarter, was just absolute and total nonsense. The Missouri lineman gets basically pancaked there, falls down, and, well, the defensive lineman falls down with him. There was no trip there whatsoever. I mean, it was a mind-bogglingly bad call. I also thought on the long touchdown run for Vanderbilt of about 80 yards or so, I thought a hold was, at least one holding violation was missed on that one pretty blatantly. A Missouri defender, I believe Dalen Carnell, was trying to come back into the play. Well, his jersey was being held onto. He was clearly being held there, in my humble opinion. Then a fourth quarter hold on Caden Green, by the way, seemed completely bogus to me. There was also no offsides penalty called when Connor Tollison, the Missouri center, was basically pushed down as he's snapping the football. How that's not offsides. I've watched that replay from about 5 or 6 different angles, and I still don't understand how that could possibly not be an offsides penalty. And then fourth quarter, Langdon Kitchen, the Missouri pass rusher from Western High School in local Missouri here. My goodness. The roughing the passer there, is he just not supposed to try to knock down the pass or try to tackle the guy? I mean, it'd be one thing if he just runs up and just blasts the guy in the face. That was complete incidental contact there. You do wear a helmet for a reason. This idea that anytime the quarterback's helmet is even incidentally touched, that has to be a flag. Listen, maybe by the letter of the law, that was the correct call, but just a brutal call, for an unbelievably unlucky call at the very least, by Kitchen and Missouri. But, of course, it wasn't all just about officiating at the end of that game. Of course, on the Vanderbilt scores a touchdown to go up 17-10. That would ultimately win the game for the Commodores. On 3rd and 8, how do you give up that easy of a slant route on that drive would be my big complaint there, quite honestly. I just thought that was terrible. I really do. To give up that big of a cushion on 3rd down and 8. Missouri has been playing really excellent defense, by the way, in this game. So I'm not trying to crush Corey Batoon. In fact, I thought there were some really good wrinkles by Missouri in that game. And one of the obvious ones that was the most effective was putting Darius Smith as a spy. He was basically an off-ball linebacker with a 3-man front. He would sort of be the 4th man in the rush, but he was basically spying Diego Pavia, and he had so much speed that really took away that scrambling element in key downs for Diego Pavia and the Commodores. That was a really effective wrinkle by Corey Batoon, I thought. So that was obviously a problem there, but Missouri on its final drive, 1 minute and 52 seconds left, 1 timeout left. There was an argument that maybe Missouri should have let Vanderbilt score more quickly, by the way. I think ultimately, playing defense was the right call. There was I think anytime there's sort of an argument either way, you got to go toward just playing defense and letting your team have a real chance, not actually letting the other team score. That's got to be a true desperation moment. And obviously Missouri was pretty close to that, but they ended up getting the ball back with a chance to score it. And I thought, Zollers, by the way, draws a defensive pass interference on 3rd and 23. Basically, he just bought a ton of time on that play and allowed something magical to happen there. But obviously, really, to me, the big mistake by Missouri, they get a 1st down. They have no timeouts left. There's maybe, 35 seconds left or so at this point, maybe 30. I just thought that, obviously, hey, you get a 1st down. The chains pause as the ball is spotted, but once that ball's spotted, the clock keeps moving. I understand Missouri's logic there. I really do. They thought, hey, the clock's going to stop here. Let's get up and get another snap. The problem is the number of snaps, the downs, is not really your problem right now. The problem is the clock. And the other problem is, again, you've got a true freshman quarterback here. He has no experience in college football for all intents and purposes at this point. Spike the football. Settle him down. He's never run a 2-minute drive at the end of the game in an SEC stadium before, and all this, a million different factors here. Spike the football, settle everybody down, make sure we're all on the same page, because guess what? That play you ran on 1st down didn't really get you that much, did it? And it just cost you a ton of time, and basically now you're down to a 2nd, 3rd down situation where, hey, guess what? You're not even going to really get that 4th down. What did spiking the football really gain you there? I would say absolutely nothing, to be brutally honest with you there. So unfortunately, Missouri does a lot of great things. Eli Drinkwitz does a lot of great things, but sometimes clock management at the end of halves, at the end of games, is not one of them, to be brutally honest with you. And you know what? I got to be brutally honest with a Missouri wide receiver coming up here in just a little bit. One of my favorite players on the team since 2023 has been Marquis Johnson. And Marquis Johnson made one of the really great, was 1/2, along with Luke Bauer, one of the great plays in Missouri history, in my opinion, in 2023. The faked punt against Kentucky. I love Marquis Johnson as a player. I think he's a good guy too, but this season, boy, he has gone into a habit that absolutely must be broken right now. I'm going to be brutally honest with Marquis Johnson and all of you coming up here in just a little bit. But you know what? We got to be positive too, because it's almost the weekend. It's time. Well, it is the weekend. What am I talking about? Come on, copy. Don't trip me up now. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. Well, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. Hey, not only Matt Zollers, but how about Jude James, too? Obviously, those young men have some chemistry. Both of Matt Zollers' touchdowns in his Missouri career have been to Jude James. And, hey, a 4th down play, James gets open for Zollers. What a great play by an inexperienced but very talented young tight end with Brett Norfleet out in the second half. Boy, Missouri really needed that one. Obviously, Zollers overshadows it, but great job by Jude James. And just like Jude delivered for the Tigers, well, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. And also, well, the NFL season is, of course, in full swing, and DraftKings, and FanDuel, oh man, I'm going to get fired, aren't I? And FanDuel is the place to be. No, screw those other guys. We're all about FanDuel here at Locked On Mizzou. Of course, FanDuel has a huge offer for you. Bet $5, and if you win, you get $300 in bonus bets. Again, bet $5. You win it, you get $300 in bonus bets. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com and download the FanDuel app today and get started. Oh boy, the perils of a live podcast once again bite me in the butt. But you know what? Marquis Johnson, buddy, I gave you a pass after Alabama because I knew that was a frustrating game for you and the rest of the Tigers. And quite honestly, looking back on it, especially that last play where Bo Prabula did not see you wide open, I can understand your frustration. I really could. At the same time, I hate it when wide receivers show up their quarterback. Because here's the thing. Being a quarterback, yeah, it's the glamour position. It's also the pressure position as well. As Bo Prabula has found out, as Matt Zollers is about to find out, as soon as something goes wrong, well, podcasters and columnists and fans and everybody else sure likes to point the blame right at that quarterback position. So with all that pressure being on that position, what I don't need is my wide receiver showing him up publicly. Yeah, go to the sidelines if you're frustrated. Talk it out. By all means, talk it out like men. Have a real frank discussion about, hey, here's what I saw. Here's what you saw. What we don't need is throwing your hands up in the air and going, oh my God, what the hell? And just basically you're trying to prove, here's what I see. I see you trying to prove to everyone in the crowd that, hey guys, just so you know, that wasn't my fault. That was the quarterback's fault. And again, I'll give you a pass after the Alabama game. And I'll give you a pass because, again, I think you're a great player. And I'll also give you a pass because I know off the field this has been one hell of a challenging year for Marquis Johnson. But you know what? When you've got a true freshman quarterback in the ball game, it's the fourth quarter. We're trying to come back and win. Everything is in front of Missouri this season. Even now, but especially when Missouri's got one loss, they're trying to come back and win this ball game. You know what the true freshman doesn't need right now, Marquis? He doesn't need you going in front of everybody and in this crowd making your little signals. Oh, no, see, I thought you were going to go this way. You should have thrown the ball this way, and what the heck are you doing? That is the absolute last thing we need in that moment, bud. What in God's name are you doing? He's a true freshman. He's the third string quarterback on the team. And by the way, he's looking pretty freaking good too. I don't know, Marquis, get open. Do something. Heck, maybe you were right. Maybe you were right. Maybe you did read it right, and he should have thrown it where you were thinking. Again, not the time, bud. Time and place, okay? By all means, go discuss it on the sidelines when the drive is over. Now is not the time. Please stop doing that. I just don't understand how he's still doing this. It was bad enough during the Alabama game. How Eli Drinkwitz, Jacob Peeler, everybody else has not gotten a hold of him and saying enough. Like, seriously, it's enough for me. If I were the coach on this team, I'd be going, if you do that again, your butt's on the bench. Because guess what? Donovan Olubade and Josh Manning and Kevin Coleman are playing really good football. I'd like to see you play good football too, but right now, you're showing up your quarterbacks and the team and acting like it's all about you. I've had it. Enough. Just stop. Stop it. Seriously, enough. Have I made my point here? Somebody's got to get a hold of that, because that's a really bad look for Marquis and the rest of the team, in my opinion. But you know what? Hey, thanks for joining me here, and let's take some comments. Let's start to peruse through the comments as we go through the show here. A lot of people with obviously feeling positive about Matt Zollers. I don't know how you couldn't, by the way. The refs sucked. Yes, they were. Refs were bad, but we can't blame that exclusively. Of course not. That wasn't the point. But, hey, when Eli Drinkwitz goes out of his way to criticize the officials, I'm going to talk about it. And I thought he had a ton of great points there, to be honest with you. Let's see. I don't want a 10-yard pocket passer like Mahomes. I want a gunslinger like Marino or Elway. Patrick Mahomes is better than both of those players. I got news for you. Period. Do you think I'm wrong? Does anybody think John Elway had a better career than what Patrick Mahomes has had so far? I mean, you've got to be the biggest Denver Broncos homer of all time if you really think that. Honestly, you can't possibly think that. Anyway, let's move on. Missouri dominated every single facet of the game except the scoreboard. They have been in every game this year. That's why the losses hurt. Well, did we dominate every single aspect? I would say it was more even than dominant. Missouri, yeah. I don't know if I can go quite that far. Missouri did have more rushing yards by about 50. They had more passing yards by about 70. So, yeah, yardage-wise, Missouri dominated that part of the game for sure. You could say the same thing for Missouri against Alabama as well. So, unfortunately, you could say sort of the opposite. Auburn really dominated the scoreboard, yet Missouri won. What a weird game football can be. We're not beating A&M. I wouldn't go that far. I really wouldn't. I think Missouri's got a chance. I don't see why you wouldn't think Missouri would have a chance. That's a really good Missouri defense, number one, that held Vanderbilt better than anybody all season. There's plenty to be optimistic about. Obviously, that was a brutal loss. I was sulking last night, much to my wife's chagrin after the game. I don't blame anybody for sulking after that one, but the good news is we do have a bye week here. It couldn't have come at a better time. This will give Zollers plenty of time for starters, reps, everybody else to get used to Zollers. Heck, Brett Norfleet, who I was just talking about needing to stay healthy for an entire season, hopefully this couple weeks will be able to get him right as well. Regardless, you know what? It was a tough loss for Missouri, but hopefully this has been an enjoyable podcast for you. I guess I'm going to be hopping on the reaction show here in a little bit too. I don't know. I don't know if I'm really feeling it. We'll see. You're just going to it'll just be a big surprise for you. Will I be on the overreaction show with the SEC squad or not? You're just going to have to find out. But you know what? Until Monday, I am John Miller, and thanks so much as always for listening to Locked On Mizzou.